chapter, actually, there are no actual chapter numbers in this book, but the chapter is called...
What?
The chapter is called A Grain of Truth. A number of black points moving against a bright sky streaked with mist drew the Witcher's attention. Birds. They wheeled in slow, peaceful circles, and suddenly swooped and soared up again, flapping their wings. The Witcher observed the birds for a long time. Then, bearing in mind the shape of the land, density of the wood, depth and course of the ravine which he suspected lay in his path, calculated their distance to them. Calculated the distance to them. He's a Witcher, dude.
Does it?
Yeah.
That's impossible.
No, he did it. It's not impossible.
It's not even possible.
And how long he would take to cover it. Finally, he threw aside his coat and tightened the belt across his chest by 2 holes. The pommel and hilt of his sword, strapped across his back, peeked over his shoulder. "We'll go a little out of our way, Roach," he said. "We'll take a detour from the highway. I don't think the birds are...
Sorry.
I don't think the birds are circling there for nothing." The mare walked on, obedient to Geralt's voice. "Maybe it's just a dead elk," said Geralt, "but maybe it's not. Who knows?" There was a ravine as he had suspected. The Witcher scanned the crowns of the trees tightly filling the rift, but the sides of the gully were gentle, the riverbed dry and clear of black thorns and rotting tree trunks. He crossed it easily. On the other side was a copse of birches, and behind it a large glade.
Vehicle.
Heath and undergrowth, which threw tentacles of tangled branches and roots upward. The birds, scared away by the appearance of a rider, soared higher, croaking sharply in their hoarse voices. Geralt saw the first corpse immediately. The white of the sheepskin jacket and matte blue of the dress stood out clearly against a yellowing clump of sedge. He didn't see the second corpse, but its location was betrayed by 3 wolves sitting calmly on their haunches. I think that's how you say that. Watching the Witcher. His mare snorted at the wolves as if it were a command. Unhurriedly, trotted into the woods, every now and again turning their triangular heads to watch the newcomer. Geralt jumped off of his horse. The woman in the sheepskin and blue dress had no face or throat, and most of her left thigh was gone. The Witcher, not leaning over, walked by her. The man with his face to the ground, Geralt didn't turn the body over, seeing that the wolves and birds hadn't been idle, and there was no need to examine the corpse in detail. The shoulders and back of the woolen doublet were covered with thick, black rivulets of dried blood. It was clear the man had died from a blow to the neck, and the wolves had only found the body afterward.
Yeah, I killed him.
You killed him? You went to the book and killed this man?
No one's talking about that. Shouldn't be accusing people of murder.
On the wide belt next to the short cutlass. Wait. On a wide belt next to the short cutlass and the wooden pulled out a medallion engraved with the wolf with bare jaws. The medallion, hanging on a silver chain, bobbed up and down into rhythm with the horse's gait, sparkling to the sun's rays like mercury.
Carry on.
He noticed the red tiles of the tower's conical roof from the summit of a hill as he cut across a bend in the faint trail. The slope, covered with hazel dry branches and a thick carpet of yellow leaves, wasn't safe to descend on horseback. The Witcher retreated, carefully rode down the incline and returned to the main path. He rode slowly, stopped the horse every now and again, and hanging from the saddle looked out for tracks. The mare tossed her head, neighed widely, stamped and danced on the path, kicking up a storm of dried leaves. Geralt, wrapping his left arm around the horse's neck, swept his right hand, the fingers arranged in the sign of Axia, over the mount's head as he whispered an incantation. Is it as bad as all that? He murmured, looking around and not withdrawing the sign. Easy, Roach, easy. By the way, Roach is the name of his horse.
I fucking know.
No, you didn't. The charm.
Played the fucking game.
Oh my God. The charm worked quickly, but the mare, prodded with his heel, moved forward reluctantly, losing the natural, springy rhythm of her gait. The Witcher jumped nimbly to the ground and went on by foot, leading her by the bridle. He saw a wall. There was no gap between the wall and the forest's no distinct break. The young trees and juniper bushes twined their leaves with the ivy in wild veins, clinging as a stonework. Geralt looked up at the same moment. He felt a prick.
Far.
Geralt looked up. At the same moment, he felt a prickle along his neck, as if an invisible soft creature had latched onto his neck, lifting the hairs there. He was being watched. He turned around smoothly. Roach snorted. The muscles in her neck twitched, moving under the skin. A girl was standing on the slope of the hill. He had just climbed down. One arm resting on the trunk of an alder tree. Her trailing white dress contrasted with the glossy blackness of her disheveled hair, falling to her shoulders. She seemed to be smiling, but she was too far away to be sure. "Greetings," he said, raising his hand in a friendly gesture. He took a step forward to the girl. She turned her head a little, following his movements. Her face was pale, her eyes black and enormous. The smile, if it had been a smile, vanished from her face as though wiped away with a cloth. Geralt took another step. The leaves rustled underfoot, and the girl ran down the slope like a deer, flitting between the hazel bushes. She was no more than a white streak as she disappeared into the depths of the forest. The long dress didn't appear to restrict her ease of movement in the least. What do you think about that, like, Tony? What if you just saw a girl in the forest? What would you do?
Nothing.
you do nothing.
No.
Okay. Well, what would you do?
Nothing.
Okay. Roach neighed anxiously, tossing her head. Geralt, still watching the forest, instinctively calmed her with the sign again. Pulling the mare by the bridle, he walked slowly along the wall, wading through the burdock up to the waist. He came to a sturdy gate. Oh God. Did you just like breathe into the mic? He came to a sturdy gate with iron fittings and rusty hinges, furnished with a great brass knocker. After a moment's hesitation, Geralt reached out and touched the tarnished ring. He immediately jumped back, as at that moment the gate opened, squeaking, clattering, and raking aside clumps of grass, stones, and branches. There was no one behind it. The Witcher could only see a deserted courtyard, neglected and overgrown with nettles. He entered, leading Roach the mare, still stunned by the sign, didn't resist, but she moved stiffly and hesitantly after him. The courtyard was surrounded on three sides by a wall and the remains of some wooden scaffolding. On the fourth side of the mansion, On the fourth side stood the mansion, its facade mottled by a pox of chippered plaster, dirty damp branches, and festered with ivy. That's what it said. The shutters, with their peeling paint, were closed, as was the door. You think this is like a haunted house like that?
No. It was Satan's mansion.
This is literally Satan?
Yeah.
Man. Geralt threw Roach's reins over the pillar by the gate and slowly made his way toward the mansion, following the gravel path past a small fountain full of leaves and rubbish. In the center of the fountain, on a fanciful plinth, A white stone dolphin arched, turning its chippered tail upward. Next to the fountain, and what, a very long time ago, used to be a flower bed, grew a rose bush. Nothing but the color of the flowers made this bush unique. But the flowers were exceptional, indigo with a faint shade of purple on the tips of some of the petals. Wait a minute. Oh crap.
What,
I missed the page. I skipped the page, like Tony, I skipped the page. Like Tony.
Can we take this mask off? Yes, we can.
Like Tony, I had to read this page. So remember back when Geralt found those corpses?
Maybe.
Well, remember when he was riding and he found those corpses with those birds hanging over them and the wolves?
Maybe.
Were you even listening?
Maybe.
Well, this is as he walked over to the man who was dead in the ground and... Okay. On a wide belt next to a short cutlass in a wooden sheath, the man wore a leather purse. The Witcher tore it off, and item by item threw the contents on the grass: a tinderbox, a piece of chalk, sealing wax, a handful of silver coins, a folded shaving knife with a bone handle, a rabbit's ear, 3 coins, and a talisman with a phallus. Oh god. Oh, wait. And a talisman with a phallic symbol. You hear that, Chucky?
What?
Are you even listening?
Not really.
You have to listen.
Focus on something else.
2 letters written on canvas were damp with the rain and dew, smudged beyond readability. The third, written on parchment, was also ruined by damp, but still legible. It was a credit note that made out by the Dwarves Bank in, oh god, in Murival, I don't know.
He's never reading a bedtime story.
To a merchant
Basically,
called
yeah.
Rula Asper, or Aspen. It wasn't for a large sum. Bending over, Geralt lifted the man's right hand. As he expected, the copper ring digged into the swollen blue finger carried by the sign of the Armorer's Guild, a stylized helmet with visor, 2 crossed swords, and the rune A engraved beneath them. The Witcher returned to the woman's corpse. As he was turning the body over, something prickled him in the finger. A rose pinned to the dress. The flower had withered, but not lost its color. The petals were dark blue, very dark blue. It was the first time Geralt had seen such a rose. He turned the body over completely and winced. On the woman's bare and bloody neck were clear bite marks, and not those of a wolf. The Witcher carefully backed away to the horse. Without taking his eyes from the forest edge, he climbed into the saddle. He circled the glade twice and, leaning over, looked around, examining the ground closely. "So, Roach," he said quietly, "the case is reasonably clear. The armorer and the woman arrived on horseback from the direction of the forest. They were on their way home from Murival, because nobody carries an uncashed credit note for long. Why they were going this way and not following the highway, I don't know. But they were crossing the heath side by side, and then again, I don't know why. They both dismounted or fell from the horses. The armorer died instantly. The woman ran and fell and died. And whatever attacked her, which didn't leave any tracks, dragged her along the ground with her throat in its teeth. The horse ran off. This happened 2 or 3 days ago.
200 days ago.
No, 2 or 3 days ago.
200 days ago.
So you are listening.
Wow.
The mare snorted
really.
relentlessly, reacting to his tone of voice. The thing which killed them, continued Geralt, watching the forest's edge, was neither a werewolf nor a leshy. Neither would have left so much for the scavengers. If there were swamps here, I'd say it was a kikimora or a viper. But there aren't any swamps here. Leaning over, the Witcher pulled back the blanket which covered the horse's side and uncovered another sword strapped to the saddlebag, one with shining, ornate guard and black congregated hilt. Well, Roach, we're taking a roundabout route. We'd better check why this armorer and this woman were riding through the forest, not along the highway.
I'm a fag.
If we pass by ignoring such incidents, we won't ever earn enough for your oats, will we? The mare obediently followed across the heat, carefully sidestepping hollows. Although it's not a werewolf, we won't take any risks. The Witcher continued, taking a bunch of dried monk shed from the saddlebag and hanging it by the bit. The mare snorted. Geralt unlaced his tunic a little. Okay, there we go. And pulled out a medallion in gray. Okay, that's where we left off. This is when he pulls out the medallion and when he comes up to the castle or mansion where he sees the girl. Now we're gonna go back over here to where we were with the indigo roses and the rose pepper bush. Purple on the tips of some of the petals. The Witcher touched one, brought his face closer and inhaled. The flowers held the typical scents of roses, only a little more intense. The door and all of the shutters of the mansion flew open at the same time, an instant, with a bang. Geralt raised his head abruptly. Down the path, scrunching the gravel, a monster was rushing straight at him. The Witcher's right hand rose, as fast as lightning above his right shoulder, while his left jerked to the belt across his chest, making the sword hilt jump into his palm. The blade, leaping from the scabbard with a hiss, traced a short, luminous semicircle and froze to the point, aiming at the charging beast. Like, do you see that skill?
No.
Did you hear that skill that Geralt has?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. At the sight of the sword, the monster stopped short, spraying gravel in all directions. The Witcher didn't even flinch. The creature was humanoid and dressed in clothes which, though tattered, are good quality, and not lacking in stylish and useless ornamentation. His human form, however, reached no higher than the soiled collar of his tunic, for above it loomed a gigantic, hairy, bear-like head with enormous ears, a pair of wild eyes and terrifying jaws of crooked, in which a red tongue flickered like flame. "Flee, mortal man!" Dude, if anyone watches this at school, I'm gonna get made fun of for days.
Yes.
The monster roared, flapping his paws but not moving from the spot. "I'll devour you, tear you to pieces." The Witcher didn't move, didn't lower his sword. "Are you deaf? Away with you!" The creature screamed, then made a sound somewhere between a pig's squeal and a stag's bellowing roar, making the shutters rattle and clatter and shaking rubble and plaster from the stills. What was that? Ew, what was that? Whatever. Neither Witcher nor monster moved. "Clear off while you're still in one piece," roared the creature, less sure of himself. "Because if you don't, then what?" interrupted Geralt. The monster suddenly gasped and tilted his monstrous head. "Look at him! Isn't he brave?" He spoke calmly, baring his fangs and glowering at Geralt with bloodshot eyes. "Lower that iron, if you please. Perhaps you've not realized you're in my courtyard. Or maybe it's customary wherever you're from to threaten people with swords in their own courtyards. It is customary. Geralt, what the fuck? Geralt agreed. Holy crap, dude. Isn't that freaking awesome?
No.
Geralt's in this man's house, and he's freaking fighting him. That's freaking... Isn't that cool?
I guess.
Come on, Chucky. Don't you think this book is awesome?
No.
What? Come on, dude. Okay. When faced with people who greet their guests with a roar and a cry that you're going to tear you to pieces, pox on it, the monster got himself worked up, and he'll insult me on top of all of it. This straggler, a guest as he, pushes his way into the yard, ruins someone else's flowers, plays a lord and thinks that he'll be brought bread and salt. Bah! The creature spat, gasped, and shut his jaws. The lower fangs protruded, making him look like a boar. So, the Witcher spoke after a moment, lowering his sword. Are you going to carry on standing like this? And what do you suggest instead? Lying down? Snorted the monster. Put that iron away, I said. The Witcher nimbly slipped the weapon into his scabbard, and without lowering his arm, stroked the hilt with the stroked the hilt which rose above his shoulder. I'd prefer you, he said, not to make any sudden moves. This sword can always be drawn again, faster than you can imagine. I notice, rasped the monster. If it wasn't for that, you'd have been out of this gate a long time ago. With my brute print. I just say freaking brute print. With my brute print on your arse. Chucky, you enjoying this?
No.
Well, what can you tell from the story so far? Like, what is happening? What is happening? What's happening right now?
Geralt died.
No, Geralt didn't die.
Geralt is alive.
Yeah, Geralt is alive.
And he's dead at the same time. It's a crazy thing, I know.
What do you want here? How did you get here? I got lost, lied the Witcher. You got lost, repeated the monster, twisting his jaws in a menacing grin. Well, unloose your way out of the gate, turn your left ear to the sun and keep walking, and you'll soon get back to the highway. Well, what are you waiting for? Is there any water? Asked Geralt calmly. The horse is thirsty, and so am I. If that wasn't an inconvenience to you. The monster shifted from one foot to the other and scratched his ear. Listen, you, he said. Are you really not frightened of me? Should I be? The monster looked around, cleared his throat, and yanked up his baggy trousers. Pox on it! What's the harm of a guest in the house? It's not every day I meet someone who doesn't run away or faint at the sight of me. All right, then. If you're a weary but honest wanderer, I'll invite you in. But if you're a brigand or a thief, then I warned you. Warned you? Then I warn you. This house does what I tell it to do. Within these walls, I rule. He lifted his hairy paw, and the shutters clattered against the wall. Once more, and deep in the dolphin's stone gullet, something rumbled. I invite you in, he rumbled. Repeated, not rumbled. He repeated it. He repeated what he said. Holy crap, like, don't you? This dude literally controls his house. Isn't that freaking awesome?
Yes.
Wouldn't you freaking love that if you could just control your house? Like, you wouldn't even need like a clap on, clap off. You could just think it and it would happen. That's so cool. This book is awesome. Now, where was I? Where was I? Geralt didn't move, scrutinizing him. Do you live alone? What's that to do with you? Said the monster, and angrily opening his jaws, then croaked loudly, "Oh, I see. No doubt you'd like to know whether I've got 40 servants all as beautiful as me. I don't. Well, pox. Are you going to make yourself... Wait. Are you going to use... Oh, crap. Are you going to make use of my generous invitation? If not, then the gate's over there." Geralt bowed stiffly. "I accept your invitation," he said formally. "I won't slight to the right of hospitality." It's freaking awesome, dude. I love this. "My house is your house," the monster said in return, just as formally, although a little offhandedly. "This way, please, my dear guest, and leave the horse here by the well." The interior was in need of extensive repair. Although it was reasonably clean and tidy, the furniture had been made by skilled craftsmen, if a very long time ago. A pungent smell of dust hung in the air. In the dark rooms. Oh. "Light!" growled the monster, and the torch in its iron bracket burst into flames and sooty smoke. "Not bad," remarked the Witcher. The monster cackled. "That's it? I see you won't be amazed by any old trick. I told you this house obeys my commands. This way, please. Careful, the stairs are steep." "Light!" On the stairs, the monster turned. Ooh, Chucky. You understand what he just did? You understand that? When he says light, lights in the house turn on, like torches light up. That's freaking awesome. That's what I was saying. He doesn't need a clap on, clap off. Clap off. He just says it. He just says it, dude. Isn't that freaking awesome?
Yeah.
On the stairs, the monster turned. "What's that around your neck, dear guest? Have a look." The creature took the medallion in his paw, lifted it up to his eyes, tightening the chain around Geralt's neck a little. The animal has an unpleasant expression. "What is it?" "My guild's badge." "Ah, you make muzzles, no doubt. This way, please. Light!" See that, Chucky? He keeps saying light because he's turning on lights. It makes sense. The center of the large room, completely devoid of windows, was taken up by a huge oak table, empty apart from an enormous brass candlestick, slowly turning green and covered with trickles of hardened wax. At the monster's command, the candles lit and flickered, brightening the interior a little. What's wrong, Chucky? What's wrong?
I'm just yawning.
What game are you playing right now? Chucky?
What?
What game are you playing right now?
I'm not playing anything.
You're not playing anything? You're really you're just listening to me?
While on my phone.
Then you're playing. What are you doing on your phone?
So on Instagram.
Instagram. So you consider Instagram more like you consider that better than listening to me read this wonderful book?
Just looking at.
You wouldn't give me your full attention?
What?
I'm disgraced like throwing you.
Okay.
Fully displeasured. But that doesn't mean I won't give you the grace of my reading. Let's continue. The candles lit and flickered, brightening the interior a little. One wall was hung with weapons, compositions of round shields, crossed partisans, javelins, and what? Gusamaries? I don't even know. Heavy sabers and axes. Half of the adjacent wall was taken up by an enormous fireplace, above which hung rows of flaking and peeling portraits. The wall facing the entrance was filled with hunting trophies, elks and stag antlers, that's what it said, whose branching racks threw long shadows across the grinning mounted heads of wild boar, bear, and lynx. Over the ruffled and frayed wings of eagles and hawks. The place of honor was filled by a rock. The place of honor was filled by a rock dragon's head, tainted brown, damaged and leaking stuff. Geralt examined it more closely. "My grandpa killed it," said the monster, throwing a large log into the depths of the fireplace. "It was probably the last one in the vicinity when it got itself killed. Sit, my dear guest. You are hungry?" "I won't deny it, dear host." The monster sat at the table, lowered his head, clasped his hairy paw over his stomach, muttered something, while twiddling his enormous thumbs, then suddenly roared, throwing the table with his paw. Wait, no, he didn't throw the table, he thumped it like down here. You get that? He did a spell. And then... Oh. Dishes and platters rattled like pewter and silver chalices jingling like crystal. And there was a smell of roast meat, garlic, marjoram, and nutmeg. Geralt did not show any surprise. "Yes," the monster rubbed his hands. "This is better than servants, isn't it? Help yourself, dear guest. Here is some fowl. Here is some boar ham. Here, turine of, I don't know what, something. Here, have some hazel. Groose. You know what groose is, Chucky? What is groose? What does that mean?
Ow.
What do you think that means? What do you think groose means, Chucky? What do you think groose means? Tell me right now, what do you think groose means? Bless you. Here, we have some hazel groose. Pox. No, it's partridge. I got the smells. I got the spells muddled up again. Eat up. This is proper real food. Don't worry. I'm not worried. Geralt tore the fowl in two. I forgot, snorted the monster, that you're not timid. What shall I call you? Geralt. And your name, dear host? Nevelin. But they call me Dragon or Fangar around here. And they use me to frighten children. The monster poured the contents of an enormous chalice down his throat, after which he sank his fingers into tureen, tearing half of it from the bowl in one go. Frightened children, repeated Geralt with his mouth full. Without any reason, no doubt. Of course not, Of course not. Your health, Geralt. And yours, Nevelin. How's the wine? Have you noticed that it's made from grapes and not apples? But what if you don't like it? I'll conjure up a different one. Thank you, it's not bad. Are your magical powers innate? No. I've had them since growing up. This trap, that is. I don't know how it happened myself, but the house does whatever I wish. Nothing very big. I can conjure up food, drink, clothes, clean linen, hot water, soap. Any woman can do that, and without using magic at that. Wait, Chucky. Chucky, don't leave me. Chucky, don't leave me. Chucky. Chucky, please. Please. I'm gone without the soothing sound of your fan in the background. It's too silent now. I guess I'll keep on reading. It's a good book. I can open and close windows and doors. I can light a fire. Nothing very... Nothing very remarkable. It's something, in this trap as you call it. Have you had it long? What? What? Okay. Someone's talking to me. Nothing very remarkable. It's something, in this trap as you call it. Have you had it long? 12 years. How did it happen? What's it got to do with you? Pour yourself some more wine. With pleasure. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm just asking out of curiosity. An acceptable reason, the monster said, and laughed loudly, but I don't accept it. It's got nothing to do with you, and that's that. But just satisfy your curiosity a little. I'll show you what I used to look like. Look at those portraits. The first from the chimney is my father. The second, Pox only knows. And the third is me. Can you see it? Beneath the dust and spiderwebs, a nondescript man with a bloated, sad, spotty face and watery eyes looked down from the painting. Geralt, who was no stranger to the way portrait painters tended to flatter their clients, nodded. "Can you see it?" repeated Neverland, baring his fangs. "I can. Who are you?" "I don't understand." "You don't understand?" The monster raised his head. His eyes shone like a cat's. My portrait is hung beyond the candlelight. I can see it, but I'm not human. At least, not at the moment. A human, looking at my portrait, would get up, go closer, and no doubt have to take a candlestick with him. You didn't do that, so the conclusion is simple. But I'm asking you plainly, are you human? Geralt didn't lower his eyes. "If that's the way you put it," he answered after a moment's silence, "then not quite." "Oh, surely it won't be tactless if I ask. In that case, what are you?" "A witcher." "Ah," Neverland repeated after a moment. "If I remember rightly, witchers earn their living in an interesting way. They kill monsters for money." "You remember correctly." Silence fell again. Candle flames pulsated, flickering upward in thin wisps of fire, glimmering in the crystal chalices. Cascades of wax trickled down the candlestick. Neverland sat still, lightly twinkling, twitching his enormous ears. "Let's assume," he said finally, "that you draw your sword before I jump on you. Let's assume you even manage to cut me down with my weight. That won't stop me. I'll take you down through sheer momentum. And that's it. And then it's teeth that'll decide. What do you think, Witcher? Which one of us has a better chance, if it comes down to biting each other's throats?" Geralt, studying the craft's pewter, stopped. "What?" Poured himself some wine, took a sip, and leaned back. Took a sip. "Jackie, I need you! I need you here! Where have you gone? Why?" He watched the monster with a smile, an exceptionally ugly one. "Yes," said Neverland slowly, digging out a corner of his jaws with his claw. "One has to admit, you can answer questions without using many words. It'll be interesting to how you manage the next one. Who paid you to deal with me?" "No one. I'm here by accident." "That's right. You're not lying by any chance?" "Oh." Adrian said I'm doing good. "Well, I'm not in the habit of lying. And what are you in the habit of doing? I've heard about witchers. They abduct tiny children whom they feed with magic herbs. The ones who survive become witchers themselves, sorcerers with inhuman powers. They're taught to kill, and all human feelings are Oh God. Oh, I have to sneeze. They're turned into monsters in order to kill monsters. I've heard it said it's high time that someone started hunting witchers, as there are fewer and fewer monsters and more witchers. Do have some partridge before it's completely cold. It said cold. Evelyn took the partridge from the disc, put it between his jaws, and crushed it like a piece of toast, bones cracking all the way. "Why didn't you say anything?" he asked indistinctly, swallowing. "How much of the rumors about you witchers are true?" "Practically nothing." "And what's a lie?" "That there are fewer and fewer monsters." "True. There's a fair number of them." Neverland bared his fangs. One is sitting right in front of you, wondering if he did the right thing by inviting you in. I didn't like your guild badge right when the start, dear guest. You aren't a monster, Evelyn, the Witcher said dryly. Pox, that's something new. So what am I? Cranberry pudding? A flock of wild geese flying south on a sad November morning? No. Maybe I'm the virtue that a miller's buxom daughter lost in spring. Well, Geralt, tell me, what am I? Can't you see I'm shaking with curiosity? You're not a monster, otherwise you wouldn't be able to touch this silver tray. And in no way could you hold my medallion. Ha! And even the roared so powerfully, the candle flames fell horizontal for a moment. Today, very clearly, is a day for revealing great and terrible secrets. Now I'm going to be told that I grew these ears because I didn't like milky porridge as a child. No, Evelyn, said Geralt calmly. It happened because of a spell. I'm sure you know who cast the spell. And what if I do? In many cases, a spell can be uncast. You, as a witcher, can uncast spells in many cases. I can. Do you want me to try? No, I don't. The monster opened his jaws and poked out his tongue. 2 span long and very red. Surprised you, hasn't it? That it has, admitted Geralt. The monster giggled and lounged in his armchair. I knew that what he said. Pour yourself some more. Get comfortable, and I'll tell you the whole story. Witcher or not, you've got an honest face, and I feel like talking. Pour yourself more. There's none left. Pox on it, the monster cleared his throat, and thumped the table with his paw again. A large earthenware dimotion in a wicker basket appeared next to the 2 empty carafes. From nowhere. Evelyn tore the sealing wax off with his teeth. As no doubt you've noticed, he began pouring the wine. This is quite a remote area. It's a long way to the nearest human settlement. It's because, you see, my father and my grandfather, too, in his time, didn't make themselves particularly loved by the neighbors. Particularly loved by our neighbors, or the merchants using the highway. If anyone went astray here, and my father spotted them from the tower, they lost at best their fortune, and a couple of the nearer settlements were burnt because of father deciding the levies were being paid tardily. Oh, I see. Not many people like my father, except for me, naturally. I cried awfully when what was left of my father became a blow from a 2-handed sword. Was brought home on a cart one day. Grandpa didn't take part in a robbery anymore Grandpa didn't take part in robbery anymore because ever since he was hit on the head with the morning star, he had terrible stutter. He dribbled and rarely made it to the privy on time. As their heir, I had to lead the gang. These words are never gonna be freaking heard, dude. I'm sitting here reading a book. You too. If anyone ever sees this, I will be astonished. If I go home to school and someone says they watched this whole freaking thing, I will crack up. As their heir, I had to lead the gang. I was young at the time, Evelyn continued, a real milksop. So the lads and their crew wound me around their little fingers in a flash. I was as much in command of them as a fat piglet is of a pack of wolves. We soon began doing things which father would never have allowed when he had been alive. I'll spare you the details and get straight to the point. I don't want to read this part. One day we took ourselves as far as Gillable near Mert and robbed a temple. A young priestess was there too. Which temple, Evelyn? Pox only knows, it must have been a bad one. There were skulls and bones on the altar. I remember a green fire was burning. It stank like nobody's business. But to the point. Oh, God. Fuck. I want to freaking read this. It makes sense in the story. It makes sense in the world that The Witcher takes place in. But I don't freaking want to read it. Why isn't like the one you here? I need him. I need him as backup.
Are you still
Oh,
reading?
like the one you're finally. Yeah, I am. One day we took ourselves as far as Gelabol near Mert and robbed a temple. A young priestess was there too. Which temple, Nevelin? Pox only knows, but it must have been a bad one. There were skulls and bones on the altar. I remember a green fire was burning. It stank like nobody's business. But to the point. I don't want to read this part like down you, but I have to. The lads overpowered the priestess and stripped her. Then said I had to become a man. Well, I became a man. Stupid little snot that I was, and while I was achieving manhood, the priestess spat to my face and screamed something. What? That I was a monster in human skin. That I'd be a monster in a monster's skin. Something about love, blood, I can't remember. She must had the dagger. Wait. She must have had the dagger, a little one hidden in her hair. She killed herself, and then... We fled from there, Geralt. I'm telling you, we nearly wore our horses out. It was a bad temple. Go on. Then it was as the priestess had said before. A few days later I woke up. As the servants saw me, they screamed and took to their heels. I went to the mirror, you see, Geralt. I panicked, had some sort of an attack. I remember... Excuse me, like that is?
What?
Excuse me? Did I just hear what you said?
I didn't say a single fucking thing.
Yeah, you did. No, I heard you. I heard you in the background. No, like that you, please. You see, Geralt, I panicked, had some sort of an attack. I remember it almost through a haze. To put it briefly, corpses fell, several. I used whatever came to hand and I'd suddenly become very strong. And the house helped as best it could. Doors slammed, furniture flew in the air, fires broke out. Whoever could get out ran away in panic. My aunt and cousin, the lads from the crew, what am I saying? Even the dogs howled and cowered. My cat, Glutton, ran away. Even my aunt's parrot kicked, then buckled out of the air. Wait, then bucked out of fear. I was alone, roaring, howling, going mad, smashing whatever came to hand, mainly mirrors. Nevelin paused, sighed, and sniffed. When the attack was over, he resumed after a while. It was already too late. I was alone. I couldn't explain to anyone that only my appearance had changed. And almost in this horrible shape I was just... oh, God. Why? Although in this horrible shape I was just a stupid youngster, sobbing over the servants' bodies in an empty manner. I was afraid they'd come back and kill me before I could explain, but nobody returned. The monster grew silent for a moment and wiped his nose on the sleeve. I don't want to go back to those first months, Geralt. It still leaves me shaking when I recall them. Well,
Hello.
You know what I'm doing?
What's so funny?
Well, I'm doing a reading of The Witcher. Me and Chucky were. And then I guess I pissed him off and he's leaving. He left. But I'm reading it. I don't know. You can go back and watch it. I'm reading though, so. Geralt, it still leaves me shaking when I recall them. I'll get to the point. For a long time, a very long time, I sat in the manor, quiet as a mouse, not stirring from the place if anyone appeared, which rarely happened. I wouldn't go out. I'd tell the horse to slam the shutter... House to slam the shutters a couple of times, or I'd roar to the gargoyle. And that was usually enough for the would-be guest to leave in a hurry. So that's how it was, until one day I looked out of the window, one pale dawn, and what did I see? Some trespasser stealing a rose from my aunt's bush. And it wasn't just any old rose bush. Those are blue roses from Nazazir. It was my grandfather who brought the seedlings. I flew into a fury and jumped outside. The fat trespasser, when he got his voice back, he'd lost it when he saw me, squealed that he'd only wanted a few flowers for his daughter, that I should spare him and his life. I was already just ready to kick him out of the main gate when I remembered something. Stories, like my nanny, the old bag, used to tell me. Pox on it, I thought. If pretty girls turn frogs into princesses... Wait, what? Okay. If pretty girls turn frogs into freaking princes, it says princes, or the other way around, then maybe there's a grain of truth in those stories. A chance. I left 4 yards, roared so loud a wild vine tumbled from the wall, and I yelled, "Your daughter or your life." Nothing better came to mind, the merchant, for... What do you think about that, Donnie? You think that's weird? Donnie?
I think it's completely normal.
This monster is like, oh, he got turned into a monster, and now he wants to see if love or a girl can turn him back into a normal dude.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Nothing better came to mind. The merchant, for he was a merchant, began to weep and confessed that his daughter was only 8. Are you laughing? No. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry over my shitty fate. I felt sorry for the old trader. I couldn't watch him shake like that. I invited him inside and made him welcome, and then when he was leaving I poured gold and precious stones into his bag. There was still a fair fortune in the cellar from Father's Day. I hadn't quite known what to do with it, so I could allow myself this gesture. The merchant beamed and thanked me so profusely that he slobbered all over himself. He must have boasted about this adventure somewhere, because not 2 weeks had gone by when another merchant appeared. He had a pretty large bag ready with him, and a daughter, also pretty large. Are you here?
What is
What? This is The Witcher. It's the first Witcher book.
It's oh my God.
Evelyn extended his legs under the table and stretched until the armchair creaked. I came to an understanding with the merchant in no time, he continued. He'd leave her with me for a year, and I had to help him load the sack onto his mule. He wouldn't have managed by himself. And the girl? She has... Excuse me? She had fits at the sight of me for a while. She really thought I'd eat her. But after a month we were eating at the same table, chatting and going for long walks. She was kind and remarkably smart. And I'd get tongue-tied when I talked to her, you see, Geralt. I was always shy with girls.
Wait.
Always tongue-tied, you know, when you're like, you know.
Oh, I thought you said, can I get tongue-tied whenever I fuck her? I thought you said that.
Wait, what?
I get tongue-tied whenever I fuck her.
I was always shy with girls. Always made a laughing stock of myself. Even with wenches from the cowshed, with dung up to their knees. Girls.
Shut the fuck up.
Girls, the lad from the crew turned over this way and that at will. Even they made fun of me, to say nothing of... I'm freaking reading right now, dude.
They're playing guitars.
Let's tag.
Even they made fun of me. To say nothing of having a mall like this, I couldn't even make myself say anything without...
Why does he have a Band-Aid on his...
I paid so dearly for a year of her life. The year dragged like a stench following the marauding troops until, at last, the merchant arrived and took her away. I locked myself in the house, resigned, and didn't react for several months to any of the guests who returned with daughters. But after a year spent with company, I realized how hard it was to live without anyone to talk to. The monster made a noise which was supposed to be a sigh, but came out more like a hiccup.
Are you gonna read this whole?
The next one, he said after a while, was called Fanny. She was small, bright, and chirpy, a real gold crest. She wasn't frightened of me at all. Once, on the anniversary of my first haircut, my coming of age, we'd both drunk too much mead, and straight after I jumped out of bed and ran to the mirror, I must admit...
He's posting them on YouTube?
Yes.
No, I'm just reading this one, dude. This is... Oh, I realize what happened. Oh, I realize. So this guy thought true love would turn him back into a real guy, and now he... Oh, God. We'd both drunk too much. Straight after I jumped out of bed and ran to the mirror, I must admit I was disappointed and despondent. The trap was the same as it ever was. If with a slightly more stupid expression, as they say, with wisdom ages... Wait, what? And they say that wisdom as... You know what? It's not... And they say the wisdom of ages is to be found in fairy tales. It's not worth a shit. Wisdom like that, Geralt. Fanny quickly tried to make me forget my worries. She was a jolly girl, I tell you. Do you know what she thought of?
Oh, why? Is this all mind control?
Yeah, it's all mind control.
Oh, it is.
We'd both frighten unwanted guests. Imagine a guest like that enters my courtyard, looks around, and then with a roar, I charge at him with all fours, with Fanny completely naked, sitting on my back and blowing my grandfather's hunting horn.
Hear the sound of bitch.
Neverland shook with rage, the white of his fangs flashing. Fanny, he continued, stayed with me for a year and then returned to her family with a huge dowry. She was preparing to marry a tavern owner, a widower. Carry on, Neverland. This is interesting. You think so, said the monster, scratching himself between his ears and rasping. Alright, the next one. Primula was the daughter of an impoverished knight. The knight, when he got here, had a skinny horse, a rusty cuirass, and an incredible debt. He was as hideous as cow dung, I tell you, Geralt, and spread a similar smell. Primula, I'd wagered, my right hand, was conceived while he was at war, and she was quite pretty. I didn't frighten her either, which isn't surprising really, as compared to her parent. I might have appeared quite... calmly. She had, as it turned out, quite the temperament, and I, having gained some self-confidence... Oh god. You guys just hate me? She had, as it turned out, quite a temperament, and I, having gained some self-confidence, seized the moment by the horns. After 2 weeks, Primula and I had already a very close relationship. She liked to pull me by the ears and shout, "Bite me to death, you animal, and tear me apart, you beast!" And other equally idiotic things.
Like that thing that Cry does.
I ran to the mirror in the breaks, but just imagine, Geralt, I looked at myself with growing anxiety, and less did I long to return to my former shape. You see, Geralt, I used to be a weakling, and now I'd become a strapping fellow. I'd keep getting ill. Did Donnie mute me?
Yeah, you're getting annoying.
Can't believe this. Can't believe it. I want to freaking... You know what? Fine then. I won't read. Come on.
Yes. Are you okay? Are you upset? That hurt your feelings.
You freaking assholes. I hate you guys. So I'm leaving the group. I'm leaving. I'm done. You guys have disgraced me and injured me too much. I'm done.
It's like, I gotta get out of here. You guys have disgraced me. I gotta get out of here. Give me no time.
That was a Witcher
Like,
reading,
that's how
everyone.
we treat each other, like trash. You just gotta...
We treat each other like assholes, dude.
That was a Witcher reading. I hope you enjoyed.